For the last 10 years, motorcycles have gained popularity amongst Filipino drivers for its affordability, convenience, and ease. In fact, reports from the LTO, or the Land Transportation Office, have figured that there are more than 3 million registered motorcycles in the country. Consequently, there are more reported vehicular accidents involving motorcycles due to various reasons such as driver error and the like. Another problem with motorcycles is that the two-wheeled vehicles have also garnered a bad reputation as these have been used to commit criminal activities. Both local and national government agencies have made many attempts in lessening these occurrences by introducing and implementing laws that are otherwise deemed as a violation of the rights of motorcycle drivers, two of which were introduced and implemented last month. Quezon City is both local and national government agencies have made many attempts in lessening these occurrences vehicle, while Mandaluyong City is allowing only first-degree relatives of motorcycle drivers to be their passengers, in that they must bring proof of their identification as proof of their relation.
Ang sama naman sa loob naming mga riders kung ganun ang mangyayari na iba't iba. Okay lang sana kung uniform. Pero kung sa bawat syudad na may iba't ibang mga pinatutupad, na-deprive naman yung right namin bilang isang lehitimong motorcycle rider.
Hindi rin kami sumasang-ayon sa mga panukala. Hindi naman makakatulong sa katulad namin eh. Para sa amin, nagiging grounds lang isa pa sa grounds ng corruption yan.
What are the rights of motorcycle owners and drivers? What are the existing laws that target the usage of motorcycles? What other measures is the government proposing to lower the number of motorcycle-related incidents?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno. Tonight, we'll discuss your legal rights as a motorcycle owner, driver, and rider, what you need to know and do as the owner and driver of these two-wheeled vehicles.
Our guests for tonight are Jobert Bolanos, Chairperson of the Motorcycle Rights Organization, and Attorney Israel P.J. Calderon, Legal Counsel of Motorcycle Rights Organization.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, Jobert and Attorney Denden. Good evening. Right? Yeah, thank you so much for joining, and glad you made it here on time because you were probably on your motorcycles.
Oh, no. It's for me, no.
In this weather.
In this weather, it's not no. But it's a fairly relevant topic, and you know, we all know that a lot of people.
Actually, for me, before I saw the statistics, 3 million registered owners, and actually Jobert was correcting 5 million na raw ngayon. My first initial reaction when we said we'll have this topic was, what's the relevance to us? Like, I don't usually use a motorcycle, but why should our viewers out there care to know kung ano yung regulations applicable to motorcycle owners?
Actually, insofar as motorcycle riders, there are different laws that has been passed by Congress insofar as the protection of the motorcycles. But insofar as the constitutional right, basically, insofar as a motorcycle rider, of course, he has the right to property. So he can purchase any vehicle he wants insofar as his convenience is concerned.
And as long as it's registered, and you're not violating any laws, basically you should be protected. Right? Do you feel that there's, the reason, we're going to discuss the ordinances that have come out. Do you think that you're being, set apart, or do you think it's kind of class legislation in a way, and they're issuing these laws to your detriment as motorcycle owners and drivers?
Of course, insofar as our group, Motorcycle Rights Organization, we have, at least in our position, we deem this kind of ordinances as a form of class legislation, wherein they brand two motorcycle riding person as members of a criminal group riding in tandem. But actually, the correct term which should be criminal motorcycling riders. That's the correct term that should be addressed by the people now.
Okay.
Jobert, would you know if motorcycles really are one of the primary tools for committing crimes in order for local governments or the government to come up with legislation that would regulate them more strictly?
It is not the motorcycle that commit the crime. It is the person on the motorcycle that commit the crime. Same as it is not the gun who kills the person. It's the person who uses the gun.
Right?
But it is a vehicle of choice. Like a gun is a weapon of choice because it's easier to move around with. That's the reason why motorcycles is being branded. But because of that, we are unduly profiled by the government, who puts in legislation, but they tend to hit on the end user first before they look into different avenues or exhaust all efforts to improve on enforcement.
Okay, but I suppose before we say that the government is implementing class legislation or the regulations are unfair, maybe we can point out what are the main
laws, I guess.
Yes, main laws and applicable, and what do they provide?
Actually, so far as our laws in the Philippines, of course, there is this Republic Act 4136, which is the Land Transportation Code. Also, the 2009 Motorcycle Helmet Law. And also, we have here the Republic Act 10586, which is the Anti-Drunk and Drug Driving Act. In addition to other laws like the Clean Air Act, which provides for certain rights with respect to the use of a motorcycle.
Okay, but what do you think? They're very highly restrictive?
The existing laws are basically there for all vehicles, not just motorcycle users, because we believe in the saying, we go by the saying of equal protection from the laws. So when they single out motorcycles as a problem,
A certain class, I guess.
a certain class as a problem because of criminality, we have to also put in the question: how about criminals that use cars, or criminals that go on foot? We even have a story wherein criminals were using bicycles. So if they're going to put legislation on motorcycles alone, then it becomes a class question.
Okay. Do you include in your organization, for instance, those that use motorcycles for hobbies? Like those who, di ba, marami yung kilala na ganun. They go on what they call joy rides during the weekend. So this is highly recreational. Is that covered by the regulations?
Actually, there's no specific law with respect to whether you can use it for recreational or hobby. As long as you comply with existing LTO rules and regulations, you can own a motorcycle.
No, it seems to me that there seems to be more laws, and correct me if I'm wrong, more laws on cars and trucks and buses than there are laws on motorcycles. Are the people who are riding motorcycles, is the dissemination of information free-flowing? Do they get this information of all their rights and the laws that are restricting their actions on their bike?
That's one of the biggest problems actually that we have. There are a lot of cases wherein apprehensions are being challenged on street level because the vehicle owner does not know what the law speaks of. So the dissemination of information, there's a very huge gap. And that's where we come in also, because our means to pass on that information and teach the people about these laws, we do it on a nationwide scale, but it's still not enough. You know?
Well, since you've reached that topic of the importance of information dissemination, maybe you can tell our viewers what are the important points that motorcycle owners or those who intend to buy motorcycles should know about?
Well, there's the basic rules on lights, for example. Brake light should be red, your headlight should be white or yellowish. Of course, the use of emergency lights or blinkers or sirens that imitate emergency vehicles, that's all illegal. And then, of course, the use of helmet.
Is there any specification in the helmet?
Well, we follow a standard. It should be, it should follow a certain standard. We use UNECE, but DTI and LTO recognizes the other standards like DOT, SNEL. It's recognized as well.
What does UNECE mean?
UNECE is a helmet standard derived from the European countries. which the Philippines adopted because we don't have our own standard here in the Philippines.
Okay.
Unlike Japan, they have their own. Thailand has their own. But here, we're following what the international standard is because we are part of the Vienna Convention on road traffic. So they follow that standard.
So if you were to buy, what do you have to look for in order to make sure that your helmet is compliant?
Based on
Wala bang sign
yeah,
dito
based on the UNECE or the Helmet Act, the consumer protection is the ICC sticker.
Okay.
All right.
So without the ICC sticker, it doesn't pass regulation.
It's not compliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you be caught? Can you be caught and I guess sanctioned? Or
Yeah,
penalized
that's one of the
by-
problems that we faced actually recently. They required ICC on street level. So the ICC sticker is supposed to be for consumer protection, but it doesn't. It's not supposed to be a regulation on street level. So
all right.
once I purchase the helmet from a store, I can do whatever I want with it. I can remove the ICC sticker if I want to. But without the ICC sticker, it's a provision for policemen
to apprehend.
to apprehend. What if I purchased a helmet from the United States, for example?
Which is compliant, but
Yeah,
it
which is
just doesn't have the sticker.
More than compliant,
compliant,
but
yeah.
it just doesn't have the sticker.
Okay.
Then I get apprehended on the streets.
Okay. So basically, what we need maybe is to have the LTO issue stickers to all the helmets or have a system like ganito.
We did ask DTI to help us out, and they did allow consumers to have their helmets inspected, and they provided stickers for those who pass the standards. Of course, there's components, and then there's the standard, but that ended in December of 2012.
Okay. Well, we'll ask you more, Jobert, and of course, Attorney Denden. Right now, we'll have to take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these messages.
Lately, many motorcycle owners are finding that owning and operating their bikes are becoming more of a hassle than a convenience with the several laws government agencies have introduced. Did you know that when riding a motorcycle, you're supposed to wear the appropriate attire? Drivers and passengers are required to wear helmets. The visors of these helmets should be clear and not tinted. Failure to wear a helmet means a fine of 1,500 pesos. Aside from this, the Administrative Order 2008-015 states rules and regulations on the use of motorcycles on highways as well as penalties if these are violated. Section 6 of the law states that only one passenger or back rider is allowed per motorcycle or scooter, and these should not carry cargo other than saddlebags or luggage carriers specifically designed and approved by the DTI. If caught, the driver is compelled to pay 1,000 pesos in fine. Section 9 states that drivers shall not operate a motorcycle while under the influence of liquor or drugs or use their cellular phones or driven on sidewalks. While Section 11 prohibits drivers from wearing slippers or being barefooted or face a fine of 500 pesos for the first offense, 700 pesos for the second offense, and a fine of 1,000 pesos and the revocation of your license for the third and succeeding offenses. Consider these laws and penalties the next time you take your motorcycle out for a ride. At the end of the day, it's better to be safe than sorry.
You're still watching Legal Help Desk with our guests, Jobert Bolanos and Attorney Israel P.J. Calderon of the Motorcycle Rights Organization.
All right. So let's assume I want to own a motorcycle and drive like you guys. I have a non-pro license. Can I be already qualified to own a motorcycle and have one registered?
There is a restriction, actually.
There is a restriction.
Yeah. For motorcycle operators, you have to have restriction 1 on your license. For four-wheeled, that's restriction 2.
Okay.
So that's the only requirement.
Do I have to have a test? Parang like when you get a license for a car, you have to have.
There's supposed to be a practical test.
There is a practical.
But in some
you say supposedly.
in some areas, we know that it doesn't happen all the time.
So, but in terms of buying a motorcycle and then getting registration and then getting that type of license, is it difficult?
No, it's fairly easy. When it's like getting a license for driving a car. You first go through non-pro, and then after a couple of months, then you go through that wait period, and then after that you can apply for non-pro.
Okay. I have another question because for me, ito yung isa sa more commonly used form of transportation for motorcycles. Tricycle drivers. Are they also subject to all of these regulations applicable to motorcycles?
Kasi motorcycles yung mga yan.
Of course, if they are a public utility vehicle, they have to be given a franchise insofar as the local municipality or city. But insofar as being a privately owned, as long as they comply with the LTO regulation that they are a motorcycle with a sidecar, that would be allowed.
But are they subject to, kasi ang dami ko nakita, Rod, walang helmet, walang, I guess, depending
are they
which
covered by
city
the-
they operate, walang vest.
Insofar as the helmet law, actually, it is specifically provided therein that motorcycles with sidecar or tricycles are exempted from the provision.
Exempted.
Yes.
all right.
Okay. Do
Okay.
you think that makes sense?
Yeah.
Are they in less danger?
Actually, they are within the same danger as motorcycle riding.
They have that canopy though. So
Which makes
there's a little
Which
safety.
makes their brain more...
In the question of safety, it's really questionable because in other countries, sidecars or three-wheeled vehicles, they require a third brake system. So including the sidecar must have a brake system.
Right.
So
Yeah,
if
I
you
would-
follow that standard,
I would imagine that.
Yeah,
But they
I would
require
even
that.
argue they need it more because, and their passengers, kasi yung mga bata, the school kids, they ride tricycles. So they have no other protection. There's no
Right.
seatbelt.
Now, let's go through some scenarios, no? Before we go to some of the ordinances the controversial ordinances. Like for example, yung angkas nga, di ba? Is there a way that the person behind me should sit? I mean, there's some women who prefer not to straddle, but rather sit on the side like that. And there are situations where there's a child in between them, or minsan dalawang child, one in the front of the driver, and in between the mother and the dad. No? I mean, are there specific scenarios in riding a motorcycle that are prohibited?
as far as passengers are concerned, the way they sit, whether both legs are on one side or straddle, there's no specific indication on any written law about that. But as far as children are concerned, they're considered a third passenger, especially the small ones. So we commonly see parents having their children ride with them, and they sit in between the parents. That's actually not allowed because on the law, it specifies that you can only have one passenger for a motorcycle.
But there's no minimum age for bringing kids.
Right now, there's no minimum age, but Child Safe is advocating and lobbying the law that requires all passengers to have their feet rested firmly on the foot pegs. And the helmet should properly fit whoever's using it. So an adult helmet cannot be used for a child. And then as far as holding the driver is concerned, it's still in progress. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of arguments.
But right now, there's no age.
Right
minimum,
now, there are local ordinances though.
There are local ordinances. Now, for example, side view mirror or side mirror and let's say signal lights, are those mandatory? And can you get caught if you didn't have? Or are those required? Side mirrors?
As far as accessories are concerned, other components similar to cars, yes, signal lights are required. Side mirrors are required. As far as the side mirrors are concerned, they have to specify what the minimum size is. So there's a lot of updating that has to be done.
Kanina, Robert, you mentioned that, of course, it's really just a tool. So in terms of using motorcycles, for crimes, you can't blame the motorcycle, obviously. It's the person. So to the extent that there are a lot of negligent motorcycle riders, and they really interfere, di ba, Rod? I'm sure you've experienced this sa traffic.
Yes.
Sila mahilig sumingit, sila nakakabangga. Minsan mababangga nila side mirror mo, magagasgasan ka nila. How do you deal with that? I mean, is there any specific department or office where you can report them? Especially mga delivery motorcycles, they're always in a rush, tend to be negligent. How do you ask someone from those na nasa part na nagda-drive ng cars or ikaw yung pedestrian, how do you report negligent motorcycle owners?
Late ng plate number nila.
Yeah.
So,
it's very hard actually because in order for you to prosecute somebody for a misdemeanor, you have to have proof. And if they're moving, it's hard to get proof. When you mentioned that I saw this plate number, he bumped my side mirror, that's hearsay because you can make a mistake on identifying the plate number. There's really no focus on that aspect, but on our part as an organization, we educate our members and those who go to us or listen to us, we educate them in being a responsible rider. That's our participation. But
Attorney Dendon, any practical tips on this? Like registration, can they go to LTO to check?
So far as my clients are concerned, actually I recommend them to make a written complaint before the LTO and report this kind of activities insofar as the registration, the plate number, and the time and date of occurrence.
yeah. But anyway, blotter. Like a blotter. All right. We have a couple of questions from our viewers. Justin asks, I was flagged down by a traffic enforcer in Quezon City for wearing slacks. Is there a dress code or something that states what a motorcycle driver like myself should and should not wear? I guess the cop is complaining he's wearing slacks. Dapat walang slacks. mas grabe yun. So,
in 2008, there was a provision in one of the administrative orders that was released by LTO that you should be wearing heavy pants. But
heavy pants, like jeans.
Heavy. They classify it as heavy pants, but that provision was suspended because of there's really no classification on what's heavy, what's not heavy, or what offers the most protection.
So what is the dress code? Is there a dress code, motorcycle dress code?
As far as what you wear, it's just shoes and helmet.
Huh? Okay.
That's
So,
the requirement. That's the
this
requirement.
question, for instance, there was no reason to flag him down because okay lang ang slacks.
Slacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we call out to people, of course we say it's not against the law to wear shorts or to wear slacks, but we want them or we advise them to wear the best protection available.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Ray. Is there any restrictions or laws on noisy motorcycle mufflers?
Yeah, or even the pollution, yung,
Oo
diba,
nga.
minsan, there
Are they subjected to the, sige, yung motorcycle, yung noise first, but next yung pollution, are they subjected to the
Actually,
same?
pursuant to an LTO regulation, which requires a maximum level of 115 decibel. That was issued before in 2009, if I can recall. But particularly insofar as the ordinances that are now existing in Bacoor, they require 60 decibel as a maximum level. Just imagine we are talking here. This level of decibel is actually 60. So we are violating the law. But we in MRO are actually questioning the reasonableness and the level.
Impossible to have a motorcycle that's less than 60.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Okay, how about the smoke belching and all that? Are motorcycles subject to the same rules as buses
all
and
vehicles,
cars?
yeah, including motorcycles are subject to the Clean Air Act.
Okay.
That's where we argue against these ordinances that disallow the modification of mufflers, because DTI has allowed aftermarket pipes in the market and it's available everywhere. But if they want to set a regulation or regulate sound, it should be the same as Clean Air Act, where there is a standard and then there's a process.
Okay.
Okay.
So after this, I'll ask them naman kung ano yung penalties for violations.
Yeah.
Kung pwede ba ma-confiscate yung license, for instance. But
Right.
for now, we'll have to take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return, so stay tuned. You're still tuned in to Legal Help Desk with our guests, Jobert Bolanos and attorney Israel P.J. Calderon.
All right. Let's talk about the ordinances. Should I say questionable ordinances that have come out? No, I say questionable because you're questioning it a lot. There's one in Quezon City, I think, which is the vest law, right? Or the vest ordinance. Can you tell us more about that? And then let's talk about the Mandaluyong ordinance, and then let's talk about penalties later, as Karen mentioned.
For Quezon City, the ordinance specifically mandates that everybody who passes through the city to wear vests with or any type of clothing with their plate numbers printed on their backs. The issue here is we do not believe it will help deter crime or stop crime because there is no criminal in their right mind who would wear anything that
identifiable.
would point to their true identity.
But then again, it might help because if you're one of those, because you have criminal intent, you don't want to wear the vest, then kahit hindi mo pa nagagawa yung crime, pwede ka na i-flag down to arrest you.
Yeah, but contrary to that, it can also be used as a means to get away from the crime because it's easy to get rid of one vest
And then
after the
change
commissioning
into-
and change into another one as fast as you transfer to a different motorcycle after you've done the crime.
So essentially, you can implicate another person by wearing
Yes,
someone else's
yes,
vest, right?
yes.
And the vest can also be stolen.
Yeah,
right? So,
it's public knowledge that it's easy to fake registration, fake licenses. What more of that?
But at least for our viewers, they should know. If you're a motorcycle owner, again, even if it's for recreational purposes, you have to have this vest. Or
Yeah.
else, at the moment,
least in
pwede
Quezon-
kang,
in Quezon
yes,
City.
you can get
Actually,
caught
just,
or
just a
penalized.
correction. Actually, that law or ordinance is not yet
being implemented.
been implemented because it is not yet signed by Mayor Bautista. As of this
As of
today,
now, but it's been passed.
it has been passed in third reading, and we understand that it has been submitted to the office of mayor. But as of now, we do not have any knowledge that when would be its effectivity.
Now, what would be your recommendation if it's not a vest that can identify possibly identify a criminal, no, who's committing a crime on a motorcycle? What suggestions would you have to help the government catch these criminals? And we're talking about riding in tandem, diba? It's
Yeah.
become a
Or
common
even
crime.
I would appreciate the vest law to the extent na pagka meron kang may nakasagi sa'yo or you can really write down quickly their plate because as we mentioned earlier, sobrang liit eh. So if you're
Yung
riding
plate
from a
number,
car,
yeah.
it's hard to see it.
In an experiment done, there's this experiment on the plate vest, as they call it. They did a scenario wherein a motorcycle passing through snatched a bag from an unsuspecting person. And when that happened, people came in and interviewed the people right in that area. And nobody
Was able to
nobody identified the person who passed through, even with the plate vest.
Okay.
Because in certain scenarios, a criminal wouldn't do it in heavy traffic, okay? Or he wouldn't be moving slowly.
Yeah.
He would be trying to get away as fast as possible. That's why they wear a vest. But you know, the same thing goes as far as criminality. But for misdemeanors like that, yes, it would be useful. I agree with you. It would be useful for small misdemeanors wherein nakasagi ka na side mirror.
So
Or
easily identifiable.
Easily identifiable. But in the course of criminal activity, again, no criminal would use anything that would lead to his own identity.
So do you think the vest idea, or maybe just a number, let's say a numbering on the helmet, for example, is that kind of off also?
Yeah, the number one way to minimize or deter criminals is, of course, number one is police visibility. Okay, I remember the days when we were walking in Cubao, for example, when policemen were walking with us. So police visibility, policemen on patrol, and then next is fighting fire with fire. What I'm trying to say on that aspect is arm the policemen with motorcycles as well. Have them roam the streets. Like, you know, when criminals go out, petty criminals, they look for a target while on their motorcycles. If policemen are roaming around in motorcycles as well, that's fighting fire with fire. And then improving intelligence, of course. If some news people can identify and interview a criminal or a hitman, why can't the police find them?
Okay. What about the Mandaluyong City Ordinance?
Yes, the Mandaluyong one.
Maybe you can expound on this.
Again, so first the ordinance
The angkas
in
law, di ba?
Mandaluyong, it is still in the legislation stage, and which require, insofar as back ride or the second person who would ride the motorcycle, to be a first civil degree. That is the provision provided for under the ordinance.
So I can't bring my girlfriend, for example, if I had a
That's the
girlfriend.
problem.
Yeah.
Because they
Mukhang
would,
malaking problema yun for Denden.
no,
Okay.
actually, they would require you to present identification insofar as either a marriage certificate. That was the first proposal. But now, we don't know what would be the
Kind of wild.
And this is supposed to deter crime.
supposedly, that was their intention.
Okay. Siguro
So
yung
it's
mga
either-
nagsisnatch
it's
and
either your
then
child-
you have someone riding your back
Yeah.
to grab the bag from
Because
pedestrians.
my question is, is it not possible that maybe my spouse is my partner in crime?
That's also possible.
Di ba? So,
Brothers,
so just because, yeah, or brothers, yeah.
mag-ama,
Father and
Yeah.
son.
Magama, yeah, yeah. So I guess I'm trying to find the logic of. So you're saying that this ordinance hasn't passed through yet.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not because you'll have to carry your marriage certificate or the birth certificate of your son or
Yes.
daughter every time you
Which
drive.
in our position, pursuant to the provisions of the Bill of Rights, every person shall not be subject to seizure. Insofar as searching the personal identification of a person. So basically, as long as you are a motorcycle rider, you have a license to drive. The second person or the back ride should not be required to present any identification. Should not be required to present any proof that he is related to the driver.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
is there a law like that prevents that person or that person can invoke his right to privacy?
Actually, that would be our basis, the constitutional provision.
To right
Okay.
to right to
And we have
privacy.
yet to see if it will withstand the test of overcoming this ordinance in Mandaluyong. And in terms of violations, are motorcycle owners penalized in the same way as car owners? Because they're the ones that can get away with entering one-way streets or yung mga going through red lights, pero mas mabilis sila masyado para mahuli. So, what are the penalties if you violate traffic regulations?
it's actually the same. For cars, for motorcycles, it's all the same. When it says one way, you have to follow that. If you enter a one-way street, you're liable to the same penalties.
And no
But-
parking. Pag no
Yeah.
parking slot, you cannot park.
That's right.
So you can't park on a sidewalk, for example.
Yeah,
You can't.
same as you can't operate your motorcycle on a sidewalk. So we're bound by the same rules because the rules state all motor vehicles.
That's
So
good
that
for
makes
viewers
sense.
to know. So if
Yeah.
they see, sometimes I see sa mga no parking areas, mga motorcycles, siguro
Park.
dahil small. So if
Yeah.
I, for instance, know that in front of our office, lagi may nakapark, I can report that
Yes.
to the LTO.
So
or-
if they're going through a sidewalk like that, or you see them on the side, parang
Yeah,
trying to
that's-
bypass traffic.
That's
But
illegal.
weaving is illegal. Diba? Weaving through in the traffic.
That's the problem with our laws right now. Since the motorcycle community has grown, actually to a very alarming rate, because enforcement can't keep up. The laws have to be updated. So we are trying to push for the unified motorcycle law.
Yeah.
We created a document to help out the government. We created a document that updates the current laws, but we have yet to find somebody who will actively push it into legislation.
So you can get a ticket for violating traffic regulations
Yeah,
as if you
same
were a car
as
owner.
any vehicle on the road.
In terms of penalties, Jobert and Atty. Den, what is the most severe penalty a person who's driving a motorcycle can get? Is it driving under the influence, or ano yung the one thing that a motorcycle driver can do that
Currently,
will
the highest, I believe, is
imprison him?
driving under the influence of alcohol since the passing of the
anti-drunk
anti-drunk driving
driving.
law.
And for those of our viewers who missed watching our episode on driving under
The
the
influence.
influence or Anti-Drunk and Driving Act, you can be subjected to sobriety tests. So I guess this applies. Even if you're a motorcycle, especially if you are caught violating traffic regulations, pwede kang masubject dun sa mga drug or drunk.
The penalties are
driving
harsh.
tests.
The penalties are harsh. There's a big fine, and you get your license is suspended. All right. So if you're driving a motorcycle and you don't have a license, what are the penalties?
Actually, insofar as the pertinent provisions of the LTO, it has been increased by virtue of actually Joint Administrative Order 2004-01, wherein, if I can recall, the minimum penalty for violation is 3,000. At now, although that Joint Administrative Order has been questioned by the bus industry insofar as the high penalty. But at any rate, I cannot recall now motorcycle having been imposed of such high penalty.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we have more questions from our viewers. Marielle is asking us, is there a law or an ordinance prohibiting riding in tandem at night? My friend and I were spotted at the checkpoint because of this, but was later released by the officer when he didn't find anything wrong with our documents.
As far as, this is similar to bagansa in Tagalog. There's no law banning back rides at a certain time. Right now, there's no law. There are attempts though, like Manila attempted to ban tandem riding. The one in Mandaluyong is designed to ban anybody who's not a direct relative from riding with you. But again, that's still under the process of legislation.
Okay.
All right. So basically, these checkpoints, how can I verify? How can I verify, for example, is this a legitimate checkpoint?
Yeah, there are rules in the way checkpoints are conducted.
Yeah.
PNP released a circular, a public document that states what the rules are as far as marked vehicles, the signboards. There should be a mission order.
So I can ask for those?
Yes, you have the right to ask.
If I was apprehended and I didn't do anything, I can ask for those?
Yes, you have the right to ask.
So the mission order?
The mission order, the signboard that states a checkpoint is being... there should be an officer, a team lead must be present also.
A team lead,
marked vehicle, of course, a police vehicle, and it must be in a well-lit area.
Okay, all right.
So checkpoints who tend to break any of these provisions is highly questionable.
Okay.
And therefore, myself, if I was a motorcycle driver, I can question this checkpoint and refuse any kind of, I guess,
you can ask,
check or investigation.
You can ask for the mission order and then identify who are the officers present, what their names are. You can ask. You have the right to stay on your vehicle, not step down from it. Similar to, same as with the cars. You have these rights to protect yourself from incrimination.
Okay.
Thank you. Those are very helpful tips, Robert.
Okay.
Legal Help Desk will return after this commercial break. Welcome back to Legal Help Desk with our guests, Robert Bolanos and Attorney Israel P.J. Calderon.
Okay. So are there any more tips that we can have for our viewers, the ones who want to get motorcycles and possibly those who are contemplating riding on a motorcycle with someone? What other tips can you provide for our viewers?
Before getting a vehicle or applying for a driver's license, it's important for everyone to know the law, okay? Understand and know the law to protect himself from any apprehension, or at least because these regulations are designed to protect us and make us safer on the road. But we all know the problem of discipline on the streets. So it's very important for us to educate ourselves, since there is a lapse in how government passes the information on to people. Which brings me to the root cause of these problems. It's mostly because it's so easy to get a license, and the enforcement is not working as effective as it should be.
Okay. Well, to give us more insights, we are now joined via phone patch by Mayor Benhur Abalos of Mandaluyong City. Good evening, Mayor Abalos.
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening, Attorney Rod and Attorney Karen.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I guess kanina we were talking about this pending ordinance that has not yet been passed, but I think it's very controversial for some motorcycle owners. We want to know what are the reasons for the new ordinance prohibiting riding in tandem except by family members of the first degree, right, of relation?
I would like to clarify, we allow female backriders.
Okay, so Attorney Denden, yun yung concern ni Attorney Denden. Sabi niya, paano yung girlfriends?
Okay.
Pwede. Any female is a backrider because we found out in the police report that there is no female who's a perpetrator in any crime, being riding in tandem. So all males. So we allowed female backrides. Yes.
Okay, but even if I'm not related to that female.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So.
But the problem are the males, no? Because in our study, because I just came from Colombia in Latin America, and it was the same problem about 20 years ago with Pablo Escobar. So what the mayor did was enforce this type of law, where if there's a male backrider, only up to the first degree, meaning either a father or a son. So that it will be easier for the police to spot. If it's a child, okay, just allow it.
So a brother.
Just allow it.
So Mayor, a brother is not allowed. I can't have my brother ride on my back.
Yes, sir. Because the purpose is it will be easier for the police to just look at the two male back rides. If the male is just a child, just allow it. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. If it's a female, just allow it. So this is designed for the police not to make it easier for their job.
Okay.
Mayor, have you had a chance to have perhaps a town hall meeting with the constituents and find out what they're feeling about this ordinance? Because there's obviously the motorcycle riding public. They seem to have a lot of issues with this because of the enforcement part. No? You have to bring your birth certificate or your marriage certificate, etc.
Well, not marriage anymore,
Not
unless
marriage.
you're married to a man.
Unless you're married to a man. But I guess for let's say people riding, let's say it's a child. Hello? Oh, we lost him. But if it's a child, essentially, if it's
but at least that's a good development. I mean, I saw the big smile on Attorney Denden's face nung sinabi na females don't have to be related. But do you think that's sufficient to limit it to basically male backriders, yung mga restrictions?
Actually, the reason why they try to implement this is allegedly because of the motorcycle riding criminals. But then again, you cannot prohibit brothers or even
Cousins.
wives from committing a crime if they want it. And the problem also with respect to the ordinance that are being proposed now is that it is not limited insofar as application to the people in Mandaluyong. Because I'm from Cainta, so if I want to go to Manila, I would pass to Mandaluyong. If I have a back ride which does not comply with that ordinance, I would be penalized.
Well, it seems like Mayor Abalos studied this model from Colombia. And I mean, there has to be some basis based on their experience. So do you have any alternative idea that can address this problem? Because perhaps this was really triggered by the riding in tandem crimes committed in the city.
Like what attorney mentioned, a brother, you can't stop a brother from committing the crime, or a father, or a son. But these are first-degree relatives, okay? So it does not stop also a criminal from doing it all alone.
Right.
So we go back to the provision of having more police visibility on the street as far as deterrence. Fighting fire with fire, using motorcycles as a medium for policemen to go around and patrol the area. It will not stop crime. If the criminal wants to do it, he'll find a way to do it. Up to the point where he can even fake documents that say, I can say that he's my brother. just by virtue of documents, fake ones.
Okay. Well, maybe this is something that you can suggest to Mayor Abalos. Good evening, Mayor Abalos.
Yes, yes, okay. With reference to the comment about police visibility, right now we've got a lack of police all over the country. The ideal ratio is 1 for every 500. What we have is 1 for every 700. In Mandaluyong, we only have 236 policemen guarding 1.3 million residents during daytime and 300,000 during nighttime. So talagang kulang na kulang po ang ating kapulisyan. This riding in tandem team has been here for the last, 3 years, 5 years. And yet, we've been always crying out for police visibility. But of course, you must face it. Talagang kulang na kulang po. No? Talagang kulang na kulang talaga ang kapulisyan. Pangalawa, with reference to these documents that we have to present, hindi dapat sabihin mapebeke or what, kasi dadalhin po namin sa presinto. We'll bring to the police station to make sure that these documents are not fake. No? So we are now consolidating data, and we are now trying to create this the IRR, implementing rules for this.
So, Mayor, how do you intend to implement this? Do you want to have, or you plan to have checkpoints where you have random checks of people who are riding in tandem?
Yes, what we are going to do is authorize some traffic enforcers, for that matter, just like any traffic violation. And if we see 2 male, they will be flagged down. If they could show through probably, and we could just call the police, and they could show that they have the same family names, etc., and it's just a child, we would just give them the benefit of the doubt. But if they're 2 male persons of adult age, well, we'll just check their identifications closely. Okay. No? But of course, we will apply this not only to the police, but to our traffic enforcers.
Okay. Mayor Abalos, I just have a question. You mentioned earlier that you studied this as one of the, I suppose, laws that was implemented in Colombia.
Yes.
In their experience, did it reduce the crime rate committed by those riding in motorcycles?
Yes, it did. This was an experiment done about, I believe, 6 years ago by the mayor in Medellin. This is the place where Pablo Escobar was. And after Pablo Escobar died, there was a high rise of crimes involving motorcycles. And when the mayor introduced this, it was, of course, criticized. But after a few years, it dramatically declined, the number of crimes committed by motorcycles, particularly the riding in tandem.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mayor Abalos. That was very
you.
helpful.
Thank
you,
and
Mayor.
very good insights. At least, well, I'm wishing that you are able to achieve the same outcome should you implement this in Mandaluyong.
Yeah. And Karen, to our guest who's listening right now, this is only on an experimental basis, just for 6 months. Just bear with us, no? Kasi sabi nga nila, for evil to triumph is for all good men to do nothing. Pasensya na po, pero susubukan na po naman namin. It's for the benefit of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor
Mayor.
Abalos. Especially since he mentioned yung lack of the proportion required for the number of police and the number of
Hindi
the
talaga kaya,
constituents.
yes,
Talaga,
budget-wise.
you have to find other ways.
Yes,
He's stating a question on capacity, but to us, it's more of a question of not for the mayor, but for our policemen. It's a question of intent to do the job right. Because let me cite a city, for example, Marikina City. In the last few months, the crime rate of Marikina dropped dramatically.
when there was more police.
When there was more activity from the police.
All right.
So it's not really a question of
numbers?
capacity. It's the intent to do what needs to be done because of the rise of crime. So again, we understand the position of a city mayor or a councilor in terms of protecting the citizens, but we are also part of that aspect. We are also citizens.
Right.
So at the same time, not only do criminals steal our motorcycles or at least steal our identities to use when committing a crime. So, we're also victims here.
Is this a situation where, I probably have to ask, this is probably our last question because time's running out, no? But is this a question of, for example, if you're riding in tandem, you're both male, you're apprehended, you're immediately penalized for that, or you're just told, sorry, the other one has to
Well, he
has
did
to step
mention,
down.
yeah, he did mention that it's going to be subject to experiment stage of
yeah.
6 months.
So we need to
So
find
there
out.
will be no fines, no apprehensions, but there will be verification. But you know, if two persons working on a day-to-day basis and they're trying to follow a schedule, and then you get brought to a police station for verification, that's violations left and right from a point of view of a citizen looking at my Bill of Rights. So
Yeah.
there's what happened to innocent until proven guilty. When part of myself is already assumed guilty because I'm being brought to the police station for verification.
Okay.
All right. Oh, well, thanks. No, you know, we could go on for another hour, but unfortunately...
But it should be interesting.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
should at least try it out, like have that. Of course, I understand also your concerns, but it should be interesting to see kung ano yung magiging results if it works out in the 6 months.
It's experimental anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't think anyone's going to go to jail. So, all right, that's all the time that we have for tonight. We would like to thank our guests, Jobert Bolaños, chairperson of the Motorcycle Rights Organization, and attorney Israel P.J. Calderon, legal counsel of the Motorcycle Rights Organization. I'm attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm attorney Karen Jimeno. If you have missed any of our previous episodes, you may watch these at your convenience, anytime, anywhere, by downloading the Solar News Channel app from Google Play and the Apple App Store. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night. For me, before I saw the statistics, 3 million registered owners,
Yeah, it's
and
a lot.
actually Jobert was correcting 5 million na raw ngayon. My first initial reaction when we said we'll have this topic was, what's the relevance to us? Like, I don't usually use a motorcycle, but why should our viewers out there care to know kung ano yung regulations applicable to motorcycle owners?
Actually, insofar as motorcycle riders, there are different laws that has been passed by Congress insofar as the protection of the motorcycles. But insofar as the constitutional right, basically, insofar as a motorcycle rider, of course, he has the right to property. So he can purchase any vehicle he wants insofar as his convenience is concerned.
And as long as it's registered, and you're not violating any laws, basically you should be protected.
Yeah,
do you feel that there's, I mean, the reason, we're going to discuss the ordinances that have come out. Do you think that you're being, I guess, set apart, or do you think it's kind of class legislation in a way, and they're issuing these laws to your detriment as motorcycle owners and drivers?
Of course, insofar as our group, Motorcycle Rights Organization, we have, at least in our position, we deem this kind of ordinances as a form of class legislation, wherein they brand two motorcycle riding person as members of a criminal group riding in tandem. But actually, the correct term should be criminal motorcycling riders. That's the correct term that should be addressed by the people now.
Okay.
Jobert, would you know?
na makikialam sa linya. Maraming mga
For the last 10 years, motorcycles have gained popularity amongst Filipino drivers for its affordability, convenience, and ease. In fact, reports from the LTO, or the Land Transportation Office, have figured that there are more than 3 million registered motorcycles in the country. Consequently, there are more reported vehicular accidents involving motorcycles due to various reasons such as driver error and the like. Another problem with motorcycles is that the two-wheeled vehicles have also garnered a bad reputation, as these have been used to commit criminal activities. Both local and national government agencies have made many attempts in lessening these occurrences by introducing and implementing laws that are otherwise deemed as a violation of the rights of motorcycle drivers, two of which were introduced and implemented last month. Quezon City is both local and national government agencies have made many attempts in lessening these occurrences vehicle, while Mandaluyong City is allowing only first-degree relatives of motorcycle drivers to be their passengers, in that they must bring proof of their identification as proof of their relation.
Ang sama naman sa loob naming mga riders kung ganun ang mangyayari na iba't iba. Okay lang sana kung uniform. Pero kung sa bawat syudad na may iba't ibang mga pinatutupad, na-deprive naman yung right namin bilang isang lehitimong motorcycle rider.
Hindi rin kami sumasang-ayon doon sa mga panukala. Hindi naman makakatulong sa katulad namin eh. Para sa amin, nagiging grounds lang ng isa pa sa grounds ng corruption yan.
What are the rights of motorcycle owners and drivers? What are the existing laws that target the usage of motorcycles? What other measures is the government proposing to lower the number of motorcycle-related incidents?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno. Tonight, we'll discuss your legal rights as a motorcycle owner, driver, and rider, what you need to know and do as the owner and driver of these two-wheeled vehicles.
Our guests for tonight are Jobert Bolanos, Chairperson of the Motorcycle Rights Organization, and Attorney Israel P.J. Calderon, Legal Counsel of Motorcycle Rights Organization.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
So Jobert and Attorney Denden. Right? Yeah. Thank you so much for joining, and glad you made it here on time because you were probably on your motorcycles.
No. As for me, no.
In this weather.
In this weather, it's not no. But it's a fairly relevant topic, and you know we all know
actually,
that.
If motorcycles really are one of the primary tools for committing crimes in order for local governments or the government to come up with legislation that would regulate them more strictly?
It is not the motorcycle that commit the crime. Mm-hmm. It is the person on the motorcycle that commit the crime. Same as it is not the gun who kills the person. Mm-hmm. It's the person who uses the gun.
Right?
But it is a vehicle of choice. A gun is a weapon of choice because it's easier to move around with. That's the reason why motorcycles is being branded. But because of that, we are unduly profiled by the government, who puts in legislation. But you know, they tend to hit on the end user first before they look into different avenues or exhaust all efforts to improve on enforcement.
Okay, but I suppose before we say that the government is implementing class legislation or the regulations are unfair, maybe we can point out what are the main
laws, I guess.
Yes, main laws and applicable, and what do they provide?
Actually, so far as our laws in the Philippines, of course, there is this Republic Act 4136, which is the Land Transportation Code. Also, the 2009 Motorcycle Helmet Law, and also we have here the Republic Act 10586, which is the Anti-Drunk and Drug Driving Act. In addition to other laws like the Clean Air Act, which provides for certain rights with respect to the use of a motorcycle.
Okay, but what do you think? They're very highly restrictive?
The existing laws are basically there for all vehicles, not just motorcycle users, because we believe in the saying, we go by the saying of equal protection from the laws. So when they single out motorcycles as a problem,
A certain class, I guess.
a certain class as a problem because of criminality, we have to also put in the question: how about criminals that use cars, or criminals that go on foot? We even have a story wherein criminals were using bicycles. So if they're going to put legislation on motorcycles alone, then it becomes a class question.
Okay. Do you include in your organization, for instance, those that use motorcycles for hobbies? Like those who, di ba, marami yung kilala na ganun. They go on what they call joy rides during the weekend. So this is highly recreational. Is that covered by the regulations?
Actually, there's no specific law with respect to whether you can use it for recreational or hobby. As long as you comply with existing LTO rules and regulations, you can own a motorcycle.
No, it seems to me that there seems to be more laws, and correct me if I'm wrong, more laws on cars and trucks and buses than there are laws on motorcycles. Are the